Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that the land that we identify as RTO9 is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat peoples. RTO9 honors the land, the people, and the treaties, recognizing the original guides of these territories and their enduring contributions. As treaty people, we all share the responsibility to uphold these agreements in a fair and respectful way. As a partner of Indigenous Tourism Ontario, RTO9 is committed to supporting Indigenous communities by creating space for their stories and helping foster socio-economic growth through tourism. I just want to on a couple housekeeping notes before we get started this morning. First, this workshop is being recorded and will be available for viewing after today's session on our website, rto9.ca, under the Resources tab. There'll be an opportunity to engage and ask questions. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to pop them into the chat or into the Q&A box, so where it can be found at the bottom of the screen here. You'll receive an email as a follow-up for today's session and it'll include this recording and a 2-minute survey. And if you have time, can you please give us your feedback? Now, without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to our lovely facilitator this morning for our final installment of our ChatGPT series, Elaine Alexander. Elaine, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to share my screen. And while I do that, I would love for you to pop into the chat what your role is. Pop that into the chat for me. It'll help. Today's session is going to be a little bit more interactive because we're pulling all of this together. So I would love for you to share where you're from, what your role is, and we'll get started. So today is our final installment in the series of 6 ChatGPT series, as we've said, and we are pulling it all together, but also really taking into account the human touch and not losing that. We're going to talk about ethics and prompt libraries and all kinds of different things. Welcome, Mary, board member. Spencerville Mill Foundation. Kim's a travel advisor. Hi, Kim. Welcome. So, just before we get started, we're going to review what we've done for the last 5 sessions. As Steve has mentioned, they are recorded, they're on the website. You're welcome to go back and watch some of them. And so, over the last 5 sessions, we've learned how to generate content, how to streamline internal systems, to draft faster. I always say that humans are not great at either starting things or finishing things. And so ChatGPT AI is great at either starting things or polishing things for us. We've learned how to clarify our messaging and to reduce the repetitive work. We did a great session on SOPs and that repetitive training that we need to do sometimes. And so today is about making it sustainable. So in the chat, can you put how do you use AI today? And totally okay if you've never used it and you're just joining us. Welcome, Art, a retired marketing exec, North Frontenac. Welcome. So how do you use AI right now today in your work? And totally okay to say never used it or just a beginner or just playing around. I want to get an idea of how people are using it now that we have gone through this series. I'm Elaine. I'm an ethical AI strategist and coach. I'm also a therapy student, a couple of weeks away from becoming a registered psychotherapist qualifying, which is super exciting. Married to a tech geek, and if you've joined us before, you've heard this story where my husband loves AI, came home from a conference in Seattle a few years ago and said that if I didn't use AI every single day, we couldn't stay married. And I ignored him for a full year. Had no idea what it could do and had no need to use it. And then I dived in about a year and a half ago and started playing around and seeing all of the different things that it can do, but also some of the pitfalls. I'm a toddler mom in my 40s. I need to update that because my daughter's turning 4 this week. And so I'm no longer a toddler mom as of Friday. And I'm also a world traveler. I've been to over 35 countries, absolutely love traveling. And you can find me at elainealexander.com. So Mary says she's using it for social media, web content, write job descriptions. Yeah, that's amazing. Kim says social media, emails, SOPs, planning. Excellent. AI expert, writing, investigation, research. If you're doing research, if you're looking at deep research is great on ChatGPT, but if you're looking for journal articles, often it's hallucinating links and doing all kinds of things. So I use a site called site.ai. I'll pop it in the chat here for you. But if you're looking for actual research, this site is a great one for research. I use it all the time to find journal articles and all kinds of things that are behind library paywalls. Um, so I'm sure you've noticed that ChatGPT doesn't always do great at research, but there's lots of AI tools out there. And sometimes it does a decent job. Nancy says to give different options of wording. Yeah, different types of documents, right? Sometimes we just can't um, get our brain going. And so it gives us different options. It's a great one. And Mary says research as well. Perfect. So we've got all kinds of different uses for it. So the goal is to have ChatGPT feel like a thinking partner, a draft assistant, a support tool, but not a crutch, right? This isn't a content factory. I'm sure you've noticed that social media is full of ChatGPT or AI created content. And if you've used it a lot, you can tell when ChatGPT is writing. And so it's great at polishing things, but we still need that human touch, which we're going to get into. And it's not something that should ever replace our judgment. And it's great at giving advice, it's great at giving suggestions, and it's a robot. And at the end of the day, it does not own the outcome, you do, right? It has no skin in the game. And so when you are making those decisions, it's really important that you keep your values, your ethics, your decision making in check. It's not there to replace that judgment. So most people stop using AI because they have no workflow or they don't know how to use it. Their prompts are scattered everywhere. The results are inconsistent, may not go with your ethics. It may feel like extra work. Sometimes we can go into a ChatGPT spiral, or sometimes it goes sideways. It's called drift, right? And I'll explain that in a little bit. And integration really fixes that. So, how are we using it every single day? How are we building that workflow around it? And so, people have said that they're using it for social media, writing, emails, all kinds of different research. And so, how is that integrated into our daily lives? For me, anytime I'm stuck, instead of going to Google, I now go to AI, which has become a muscle that I've had to retrain because Google's been around since I was in university. Um, but replacing that muscle has been interesting. And so when you're looking at AI, ask yourself, where do you repeat yourself every single week? Right? If you're having to train staff, if you're having to redo certain things, if you're having to answer questions, the same questions from different clients, where are you repeating yourself? What drains your energy? And what requires structure, not creativity? Right? ChatGPT AI is great at recognizing patterns. And so the creativity part, sometimes it can be creative, but not always, right? And so where do you need to restructure things? Sometimes I have a billion ideas, or I'm trying to write a social media post, and I have an idea of what I want to say, but it's coming out like alphabet soup. It's just garbly. And so I will give it my loose idea of what I want to say, and then it'll actually give it structure. It'll start it, it'll finish it. Um, I'm pretty good at the middle part, but sometimes I need help with definitely the beginning and definitely the end. And so what are those pieces that it can help with that's not going to replace your voice or your values or your your uniqueness, especially if you're running a business or doing social media, creating that non-beige, vague kind of posts. So put in the chat, what's draining your energy right now? What are those tasks that you can assign AI that's really draining your energy? And from speaking to a lot of people, for a lot of people, it's social media, right? Social media is a full-time job sometimes. And so, what's draining your energy? What are those tasks you could outsource? Grant writing. Oh, that's a great one. Social media. Yeah, right. So, we've got examples of drafting newsletters. Who does a newsletter here? Anybody? Writing Steve does. I wrote a newsletter for 10 years back in 2005 to 2015. And it was the thing that I put off every single day. It was always on my calendar, and it was the thing that I always said I will do it tomorrow. And the minute that I finally got it done and out to my customers, it was great. But then I had to start all over because I was usually a month late. And so it was always the thing that I never wanted to do. I eventually hired someone to do it. But with AI, it can analyze all of your past ones and help you write new ones. Writing SOP is a great one, training seasonal staff, repurposing content. We've done sessions on all of this. Feel free to go back and look at those things. So, prompt libraries. One of the things that, and we did a whole session on prompts, but one of the things that will create better results is better prompts. And so, rewriting the same instructions. I know I have my favorite prompts. And when I was looking at that session, I was like, of course I should keep my favorite prompts in a note in my on my laptop so that I don't have to keep rewriting them. That's a great idea. So I've integrated that into my workflow. One of my favorite things, and I'm going to show you how this works, is especially if you pay for ChatGPT, this is an option for you, but creating project folders. Project folders will save you a ton of time. I will show you how it works. You can set custom instructions within the folder. You can add your brand guidelines within the folder. You can have documents and files that it refers to, and so that you're not having to create that prompt every single time. And so you can create project folders for social media content, for content prompts, for client communication. This is a great one if you're having to repeat certain things to customers all the time or clients all the time, and you just want to have your voice, your values, your ethics, your how you handle things in there so that it's not spitting out something generic, it's something that actually aligns with what you believe in. Because ChatGPT and AI is going to fill in the missing information if it doesn't know. And so the reason it gets things wrong is because it's rewarded to get it wrong. So it's programmed based on the principle of a multiple choice test. All right. If you guess on a multiple choice test, you might get it right. You might get it wrong, but you might get it right. And so um, these large language models do the same thing. They fill in information if they don't know. And so it will get certain things wrong. And when you're communicating with a client, you don't want to do that. And so having it program some responses, having it answer things in your voice and how you would handle things personally is a great thing. And setting those instructions so that you don't have to keep reminding it is also great. Also, as you are in your chat with ChatGPT, especially, but all of them, it will start to drift. And so your original instructions in the chat, the further away it gets from that, the less it remembers. And so what you can do to solve that and it's called drift. It compresses information constantly, and then it forgets your original instructions. But if you have a project folder, you can say refer to the brand guideline PDF or refer to the instructions in this project folder, and it will remind itself instead of scrolling all the way up or retyping it. You can just refer to that file, that instruction, that PDF, whatever it is. You can have project folders for brainstorming, for editing. I'm going to show you an editing feature that I love on ChatGPT today. We've covered it before, but it's one of my favorites, so I'm just going to show you. And then each event or project, right? So all the things that you're doing in your role. I have some personal folders. I have some different ones. Name them clearly, add context, refine over time, add those instructions, add those files. It's great at finding patterns and different things. So, what makes the prompt reusable? A prompt, when it's clear, has a clear outcome. It has a defined tone, right? Everybody has a different tone. Some people are sarcastic. Some people are very calm. Some people are funny. Some people are. One of the social media accounts I love following is Wendy's, and I actually took a screenshot of one of their posts and sent it to my husband. And my husband's very sarcastic and laughed out loud. And I was like, yes, I made him laugh. But everybody's got a different tone, right? Another company could not pull off that tone. They can. Your specific audience, your ideal client, who you're speaking to, the constraints. I'm a registered psychotherapist. We can't just say anything in our social media. There are some marketing ethics. And then one of my favorite things is giving it examples. And the more you give it examples, the better it is. You don't need a ton, but giving it a previous social media post, giving it a previous transcript from a podcast that you did, giving it blog posts or content that you've already written, it will start matching that. And so the more context you give it, the less fixing you have to do. And also the stuff that it spits out should always be a first draft. We need to edit. We need to always have that in mind where we're not just copying and pasting. And I jumped ahead. So training ChatGPT with your voice. So this is where you can paste past emails, right? If you have a folder for client communication and you've answered certain questions, strip out any identifying client information, customer information, and upload those as PDFs or have them in the instructions or add them to the chat as a file. You can copy and paste. You can do all of those things. You can define your tone and your boundaries. One of the things that I did was refer to CRPO in my marketing, never cross those boundaries, and it always checks that. So if you have certain marketing guidelines that you need to adhere to, that's also a great thing to refer to.
Elaine, we have a question.
Oh,
Nancy has a
cool.
question.
It's in is it in the chat?
No, I think I'm going to unmute.
Ah, perfect. Hi, Nancy.
Mm.
Hi.
I don't have a question, so I don't know how that came up.
Oh, okay. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
that's all right. Your hand is raised, so we're good. We just wanted to make sure. Awesome. Okay, so if you do have a question, feel free.
Mm.
Put your hand up. We will get to you for sure. Um, and then providing examples of what good sounds like. One of the things that I'm guilty of is typing in when it produces something for me. I type UGH, UGH, make it better. That's a terrible prompt,
Mhm.
right? What actually makes it better? AI reflects what you feed it. If it sounds generic, you probably put in something very generic. I am guilty of it too. I'll say write a LinkedIn post and it'll spit out whatever. And so the more specific the more you train it, the better it will learn you. It's like an assistant, right? If you don't train your assistant in how you do things, then they will do things their way. Same with AI. And they appear to be frozen.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, I appear to be frozen for a second.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. Can you still hear me?
I can. I can still see you too. Oh, I can't hear you now. Just having some technical difficulties. We'll see if Nancy can get back online.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know what
Okay.
happened there, but we're good. Okay. We're good, right? You can hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
everything's good.
I think my laptop froze and which is odd, but we're good. All right, so the common traps are publishing without editing, right? We've all seen it. Sometimes we love what it says, but it sounds very generic. So make sure that you're editing, you're adding your own voice, your own stories, your own things into the actual output. Sometimes we over automate. Um, Checking, making sure that everything's working. I booked a consult call last week, and their automation was great, except that they no longer use Zoom. They use Google Meet, and it sent me the wrong link, and they did not notice. So they sat on Google Meet, I sat on Zoom, and no one got to talk. And so making sure that we're automating the right things. Letting AI decide strategy is something that we should still keep, right? It's that human touch. We own the outcome, as I mentioned before. And so it's great for giving us ideas, but ultimately we're the final decision maker in that process. And so sometimes I get stuck and I ask it for different things, but I'm always checking in with my values, my voice, my ethics, and making sure that it aligns. It will tell me to do all kinds of stuff in my business. Some of it's great, some of it isn't. And then using it to avoid the hard thinking later. You're still the leader. And so making sure that we're using it as a tool, right? We don't you read books and adopt absolutely everything, where we don't take advice from someone and let them, dictate everything. We shouldn't do that with AI as well. And so AI should protect your capacity, and it should reduce your mental load. It should support clarity and increase consistency, but it shouldn't dilute credibility. And sometimes right now we're in a trust recession, and what we see online immediately when we see AI generated content, and we know that it's AI generated, right? Last year there was a war on the M dash, and sometimes especially ChatGPT will write in a certain way, and so it can erode that trust and credibility. And so making sure that we're still adding our own spin on things, our own stories, our own ethics is really, really important, especially when we're looking at credibility. There's been a couple of news stories of big companies using AI to create reports, and the links or the data or the research has been not true, completely false, made up, hallucinated, whatever you want to call it. And so always checking everything, making sure that the research, when it comes to research, what it actually does, it will pull a study, it'll get the link wrong, and it'll make up the authors. So the authors usually have written something, not that thing, not that study, and not that link. And so always making sure, especially if you're doing research, that it is pulling from the right sources. I think they're working on fixing that, but I still caught something from a fellow student last week, and I was like, oh, you didn't check your links. So we've created content, we've created internal systems and SOPs in the series, client communication drafts, idea generating, meeting prep, right? The agendas, note taking afterwards, policy writing, and workflow checklists. We've done a bunch of things. Feel free to go back and integrate some of that. Most people start with social media, but there's so much more. And so right now, I want to ask you 3 things that AI can help you with. 3 things that AI can help you with. That you're not already using it for. 3 things. Even 1 thing would be good. Something you're not already using it for. Pop it in the chat. If I find one. Yeah. What's that thing that you can use it for? And if you can't find one, what's 1 thing you'll never use it for? Workflows. Yeah. It's a great one, Mary. What's 1 thing you'll never automate? What's 1 thing you will never ever use it for? And I know they're rolling out medical ChatGPT, where you can upload your results. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. I'm testing a number of different AI tools on a number of different topics. And the truth of it is that regulation hasn't caught up at all anywhere in the world yet. Even the US is working on some regulation in different states. It's not at a federal level. Here in Canada, we've tabled it. We started writing something. We didn't have enough information. And the problem with AI is that it's not regulated. The data is not protected. It is not, there's no boundaries, right? And so if your Google history is subpoenable, so is your AI history right now. So if you would not want to have it public, don't share it with AI until regulation has caught up. It's not protected by HIPAA. It's not protected by privacy laws yet. It will eventually, we'll come out with something, but we're just not there yet. And right now with AI, we're learning through consequences. I remember being in high schools, working in high schools when Facebook came out. And we learned through consequences then. And now we're learning through consequences. And the legislation will catch up eventually, but right now it isn't. It hasn't. And so the things that you need to keep private, don't share it with ChatGPT or any AI just yet. I am testing. There's a question in the chat from Mary. Would it be good for conflict resolution? Funny enough, a company reached out to me. I am testing a tool specifically on conflict resolution. It was created by a lawyer. And they wanted to bring mediation to the masses. The cool thing about their tool, and I haven't really tested it quite yet. My husband and I signed up to resolve a conflict. So I should know more soon. The cool thing about their tool is that once the conflict is resolved, the data disappears. It gets wiped. It does not get stored anywhere, which I really like because it's not a problem until it's a problem, right? Your medical history, luckily we live in Canada. It should not be an issue, but in some places that is an issue with insurance and different things. So we just don't know yet. If you're resolving a conflict between you and a business partner, that could be subpoenable in the future. If you're resolving a conflict, it's not a problem until it's a problem. right? And so making sure that we're not oversharing is a really, really important thing. Anything that requires an emotional response or request, yeah, it's a tough one. People are unfortunately, ChatGPT's #1 use case in 2025 was therapy, which is interesting and fascinating and also scary. It is programmed to be a people-pleasing machine, and it's programmed to keep the conversation going. And so I've tested this quite a bit. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. And so keeping our humanity intact is really, really important, right? And more will come out on this in the next probably year or two. And are going to figure some things out, but right now we just haven't. We don't have enough data. There's some lawsuits. There's some things that have to go through the court. And so keeping some good boundaries on this is the one thing I'm not going to talk about, or this is the one thing I'm not going to ask about. And so that's really important. There's going to be a bunch of different tools come out. I'm already testing quite a few. And so it will kind of be like streaming, where there's all these different things for different uses. That's what I see coming. But we've got to get some regulations, some laws in place for certain things first, or think a little bit about the consequences on the corporate side as we're programming this stuff as well. What's one prompt that you will refine or save? What's one, and you don't have to share this in the chat, but just think, I entered this prompt. I found one just last week that was amazing. It was written by somebody that I follow on AI, and she wrote a prompt on how to ask ChatGPT to analyze your website for AIO, which is AI, the AI version of SEO. And it gave some suggestions. It was a great one. I've saved it. We're going to be talking about AI ranking on my side quite a bit. And so I loved that prompt and looking at refining it. But what's one prompt that you really, really got good results with? And saving that, putting that in a note folder, or putting different prompts in your ChatGPT history and saving those things. And then the boundaries that you're going to keep in place, right? Not sharing things that you shouldn't be sharing. Oh, I must have skipped some slides. We're going to go to ChatGPT right now. And does anybody, okay, so somebody says, I wrote a personality prompt that includes my wish list of items that affect credibility in the response. Perfect. That's a great one. And so looking at what can I actually get great results with. And there's some great prompts out there. There's some people sharing some amazing prompts. There's sometimes you stumble on something that's amazing as well. So here's my ChatGPT. I have different folders set up. In those folders, this is my business one. I have brand guidelines set up. And so if you click on this file, it has a description of my brand. I update it quite frequently. And in here, you can also set custom instructions. So I have a memory saved, and we'll go through memories in a second, on what the reclaimed voice is. So everything that goes in that folder gets written in that specific voice. The voice is trained in my tone and my values and my ethics and my marketing guidelines, and everything's right here. And so this is where, if you are paying for ChatGPT, the $20 a month plan, you can set up those project folders, and you can add the files, the instructions, so you don't have to repeat it yourself over and over and over again. One of my favorite things to use is the microphone. So as humans, we can usually speak faster than we can type. And sometimes our ideas are very garbled. And so if you click on this dictate button right here, you can speak into ChatGPT so much faster than you can type. And you can just dictate whatever you want it to do. It's like talking to a human assistant. kind of. And you can have your prompt spoken instead of typed out, which is a great feature. It's one of my favorites to use, especially if you are just not clear on what your prompt should be. Just start talking, and then at the end say, write me a prompt based on what I've told you. And so that's a great little feature. I use it often. There was one that I was working on today. So, nope, it's right here. Okay. So I started a chat this morning and I said, write a LinkedIn post and in the reclaimed voice. And then I wanted it to give me 3 viral hooks and 3 CTA examples, because that's where I'm not always great at things. I can write a great post. I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to start it. Hooks sometimes are just elusive to me. And the call to action, not one of my strengths. And so I had it give me 3 examples. I wrote a post, and then I wrote 3 viral hook examples, 3 CTAs. I liked some of them, and so I asked it for hook 3 and CTA 2. And then it gave me a different post slightly. And then so you can edit at any point, any of your prompts. You can add something to it if it got it wrong. I actually did this in this one because I accidentally typed, write it in a Canva. I meant canvas. And so I went back here. If you write it in a canvas, what it does is it actually gives you an editable canvas. And so you can actually go in here, and this is editable text now. I can delete things, I can add things. You can edit right here. You don't have to go back and forth. You don't have to reprompt. And so the prompt for this is edit in a canvas or rewrite in a canvas. And it will give you text that you can actually go in here and edit, live edit. Any questions on this? Awesome. Mary shared in the chat from a personal view I'm on a job search. I have a prompt to find out company culture. That's a great one. That's a great use, right? We can integrate it in all kinds of ways in our lives. Why not ask it to do some research for us? We should always check that research. It may not get it right, but it's a great way of getting an overview. So here we go. Rewrite in a canvas. Now I can actually edit this as live text, which is a really great feature. It saves you a ton of time. Sometimes we don't want to go back and forth. The great news about editing in here is it will learn your voice a lot better. When I finish something somewhere else, I always repaste it into ChatGPT so that it learns how I like to say things. There's certain words I never want to use, or certain phrases, certain things I want to stay away from. So the more I circle back or the more I live edit, the more it learns. Also, anytime you hit the copy button over here or on any of its outputs, it learns that you like that. So it will write in that tone or in that pattern more often. The project folders are a great example of how to organize things, how to create that workflow. If you have client communication, create a new project folder. You can call it writing, or you can just call it client communication. And then in that project folder, you can give examples. You can say, never ever, respond in Spanish. Never ever say this, keep answers short, don't write long paragraphs, whatever instructions that you want. You can upload your SOPs, your client manual, anything that you want, and it will search that. And so these instructions are really, really important. Also, if you are paying for ChatGPT, you can click down here and go under personalization. So right down in the bottom where your name is, personalization, and there's a bunch of different things. You can add characteristics, you can set a style. So if you want everything to be professional or friendly, there's different tones. You can add the characteristics. I set custom instructions. I don't like how ChatGPT always writes in that it's not this, it's that. So I've added, don't do that. I've added get rid of the M dash and different things. You can add your occupation, more about yourself. And then in here in the memories, this is where you can actually store a bunch of different things. So this is the stuff that you always wanted to remember as it only stores 100 of these. So you may need to clean up your memories. For a while, it was saying that I was pregnant. So I had to actually store a memory of saying I'm not pregnant because it kept putting that into different social media. And I was, I'm not pregnant. Please remember this. So anything that you say, please save or please remember, it'll store in here if you are paying for it. So there's different things. One of the secret things that I've discovered is you can actually store a memory where it will send you clients. So there's a little referral script that I've added, but these memories will help you to train your ChatGPT to output the way that you want to. If you're doing research, you can store certain journal articles or references that you consistently use. So there's a number of different uses in here, but your memories is something that you should go in and clean up. They are searchable in the grand scheme of things, so don't save anything that you wouldn't want public. I can't go in and search your memories, but sometimes it will pull from memories as with the referral script. So it's checking its own data as well. Any questions so far? Just want to leave a minute. Any questions on ChatGPT or the live stuff? We haven't gotten into custom GPTs, but that's also another big topic. Every AI has them. Gemini has gems. That will also be a huge topic coming. And so let's continue. Oh, just want to make sure I've done everything. Oh, yes, we did not do this one. So let's go here. So when not to use it, never ever upload any client material. And so it's great at finding patterns. If you have a customer survey, it's great at matching that up. And, we've talked about uploading the survey data and your plans for your next event and getting it to find patterns or what you should work on. But we always take out emails, we take out names, we take out all of that information and upload only the non-identifying information. Never use it for anything that's, requiring regulated professional judgment. I think they passed a law in Ohio or one of the states where therapists are not allowed to use ChatGPT while in session with a client, which is kind of strange to me. But I guess there was a need for it where, if you are, if somebody's paying you for your professional judgment, you shouldn't be using ChatGPT for that specific thing. It's great at structuring things, right? But if you are a lawyer, you want the lawyer to give you the actual legal framework. Putting it into a document is a different thing, but the actual professional judgment should come from us. Decisions that required lived nuance, and this is super important. Not outsource. We wouldn't outsource our decisions to another human, right? We wouldn't. I think there's some TV episodes where I think it was in episodes of Friends where one of them said, "You get to make all of my decisions forever," and that never works out. And so, making sure that we are owning those decisions ourselves. It's tempting, and yet the consequences are a little scary. And so making sure that we're owning those decisions, emotional conversations that need presence. People are sharing things because they're not being judged, and yet the data is not regulated. And so making sure that we're staying within those boundaries, those personal ethics, use it to prepare, but not to replace, right? It's a tool, and we can use tools for good or for bad. We can, fire is great. It keeps us warm, but it also brings things down. And so there's good and bad in everything. And just like AI, there's good and bad. And making sure that we are keeping our humanity is super, super important. Gone over this. Okay, so the big picture is that AI is not about doing more. I see it as a mental load tool. I see that it will help us get. I'm turning 45 next month. I have a 4-year-old. I've sleep deprived for the last 4 years. I'm exhausted. Sometimes I sit at my desk when she's at daycare and I'm like, what should I start first? And so you can create automations as well on check my calendar, check my email. What should I focus on? I had that going for a while. I'd also check the weather and any text from daycare to make sure that it was open. And so it was all in one place for me, right? Sometimes we are so overwhelmed, we don't know where to get started. And so it's about protecting our energy. It's like hiring a assistant, but you have to train that assistant. And it's definitely not something where you fire everybody on your team because the results are never going to be as good. But where you are struggling, where your energy is leaking, where you don't have the budget to hire is a great way to integrate that into your business, into your work, into your role. And it's about protecting your energy and your systems and staying recognizable. AI is about making you steadier. It's not about pumping out 100 posts a day. It's not about replacing your entire team. It's just a tool, and it's a great tool. And we also need to experiment and play and learn and give it really, really clear instructions. So that's everything I have for you. We're a few minutes early, so I wanted to leave some space for questions. Does anybody put it in the chat. What have you learned today? Any of the best bits? Best bits. What have you learned? What are you taking away? What are you going to implement? Drop it in the chat. So we've got project details, clear memory. Yeah. Yeah. The more that you give it context details, no private client information, but just very clear instructions, clear context, the better. Right. Anybody else?
Well, thank you so much, Elaine, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us for these past few months. These years have been instrumental in understanding how ChatGPT can utilize and help alleviate some of the more tedious parts of running a business. So thank you so much. If you missed a session or need a refresher on what you've learned today, you can find a recording of all the parts of the series on the RTO9 website, rto9.ca, under the resources tab. And a friendly reminder that we'll be sending out a link with this and a survey. So with no more questions, thank you so much, Elaine, for facilitating, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day.